Hey, everybody, hello, and welcome back to Massively Overpowered Television, where we're bringing you some super overpowered stuff today. That is right, we are sneaking on board Ship of Heroes so we can check some stuff out for you. And in order to answer all your burning questions, just be careful setting fires on the ship, maybe, are some devs. These are the guys that are making the game, that are doing the stuff, and they can answer your questions. So, welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, MJ. I'm
Yep.
Casey McGeever, CEO of Heroic Games. And Matt, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. I'm Matt Wells, lead developer for Heroic Games Corporation.
All right, so yes, these guys are here. They're going to be showing off a never before publicly seen area. You know me, guys. I like to go poke into places where nobody else has been or whatever. So they're indulging me with this. We're going to take a look. We're going to talk about the community. We're going to talk about the stuff that's going on, the open letter, development, where we're at, where we're going, all that good stuff. So thanks for joining, everybody. And I will show screen as soon as I have a screen to show, actually. We haven't restarted the screen yet.
Oh, oops. Let me take care of that. Oh, it
Yeah.
didn't.
Nope, I'm just getting... I just have people pictures. Ah, there we go. There we go. All right. So now I can push
Okay.
this button and boop. Oh, wait a minute. There it goes. Haha, it changed. So look at this, guys. Doesn't this look really pretty awesome? It's a nice little... Well, it looks like an industrial city to me because you've got, this little industrial quadrant over here. You've got a very metallic, shiny... I like that spirally building over there. That looks
Indeed.
like fun.
So what you're looking at, this is a view from, we're either on I think we're on a building here, looking in the foreground at the warehouse district of Apotheosis City. And in the background, you can see the downtown buildings off to the left of the screen, and sort of at midpoint, you can see the arch. So this is the actual game as it exists today. It gets changed a little bit every few weeks as we add things. So we started here just to show the warehouse district in perspective with the rest of the city. So this warehouse district, we just added it in, just pushed it into the game itself a few weeks ago.
Very nice. Hey, we got 2 new subs from One Knit and from Ziggy. Woo-hoo-hoo! I would sing to you guys, but I don't want to scare these devs away, so thank you guys for supporting us. I usually sing to new subbers and stuff. Yeah, I'm kind of crazy. I know that. All right, so where are we going to go from here? And remember, guys, ask all your questions. And yes, Ziggy, it should be looking very City of Hero-ish because this is kind of one of those successor stories. This is a home for City of Heroes people to congregate and have that experience again in a slightly different, not format, but, well, you're not on a planet, you're on a ship.
That's a good point. And Matt, let's show them the ship. Just give a quick look at, you can see there the city. That was actually our original concept art from a year ago. And this is the ship, the FHS Justice.
It's a big ship.
It's a big ship, more than 20 miles long, and with 20 city levels inside of it. So we did, particularly a year ago when we first, sort of went public with our plan to make the game, we got a lot of questions. I don't get it. I see a ship in a city. I don't see a city in a ship. And so we kind of made this video as a concept rendering to explain it's really, really big. And in fact, I would come out and say, one of the things that's become obvious to us from, answering questions and getting questions on the forums and in person is, I need to say, it's not a submarine, right? People were expecting really cramped and tight when we said a ship. No, it's a nation in space.
I gotta say this. Has anybody else ever said that this looks like a crossbow bolt?
It should. We have the idea that at some point, if you've seen a lot of, Star Wars stuff, for example, or Star Trek, they're fighting with phasers, the ships move around. there is no kinetic combat of ships ramming ships. But in space, there's really no reason why you wouldn't, because one of the prerequisites for space travel is that you can control acceleration. If you think about what you see in a spaceship, you know, they're shooting in at almost the speed of light and then they're slowing down. Well, that means you've got some sort of an artificial gravity field that's offsetting the acceleration. So if you've got that, that means, and you make a big enough ship, ramming could be back in style.
I used to be a supervillain until I took a ship of heroes to the knee.
That's going to be the new tagline. But seriously, I'm looking at that and I'm going, dang, some planet's going to hurt bad when that embeds in it. You know?
And also in the storyline, what you're looking at is the cross-section of a hero ship. It's one of the biggest ships in space. And humans build these. They build them over time. In the storyline, you can see it has 20 ship levels now, but it only launched with 8. So it has been continuously expanded over the course of a couple hundred years. It's become larger, more powerful, more advanced. But alien species are afraid of the hero ships because they are so large and because the inhabitants are superpowered. So these guys, these ships are out on the edge of the human federation, and they're defending the borders, defending the colonies from invasion from hostile species.
Very nice. All right, what do we get to look at now? I am excited to see these new maps, new areas.
Okay,
Glad Dog is asking, let's see, Apotheosis City is closest to the engines, correct? Will we ever get to the front?
Yes. Yes and yes. Apotheosis City is closest to the engine, so in this particular screen that we're looking at right now, it's on the left. And yes, we will get to the front, but it's going to take some years for us to build 20 levels, as well as worlds we can visit and all. One of the things about the game is we have enormous potential to grow, to add new environments. Really, sci-fi and superheroes have become very, very enmeshed in the last 20 or 30 years, and we're following that trend. We think that this is going to give us a lot of growth potential. We've already described what a couple of the levels are, but you know, we don't need to decide what every level is since we have 20 of them.
That is true, because who knows when the next like really awesome idea is just going to, you know, maybe you're going to have a big old slippy slide level, you know, with a ball pit at the end. You don't know these things when these ideas come. You need to be prepared, have the room to utilize them.
Correct. That's right. We already know we're going to have one level called the Harvest Pit, which is going to be a collection of some of the most dangerous plants and animals from all over the galaxy, all of which yield valuable stuff that can be used in crafting. So that's going to be an exceptionally dangerous level, difficult to do, but it'll give some unusual bounties for those who are interested in the harvesting side of an MMO.
I remember us discussing that at PAX. Now, so that's actually going to be one of these other 20 cross sections, or is it going to be under in that first one by the engines?
Okay, so it will be its own level. And by the way, each level here is about 1.25 miles in diameter. It's a big area, right, on the inside. Mm-hmm. So it is comparable to the starting worlds, starting maps in almost any major MMO. Particularly since every inch of it is, in fact, playable space, not sort of unreachable mountains that you can't really get to or something, which you sometimes see in games. So we'll have a harvest pit as an entire level. Now, in the first level, we'll also have a challenge zone, which is like a sort of a step down harvest pit. Since that is the first level, you know, you don't necessarily want to take your level 2, you know, defender straight into the most dangerous part of the whole ship, right? So we're going to have a step down version where people can harvest stuff, where they can do some really interesting fighting against monsters and all on the far side of the water.
All right. Can we jump back in and check out the inside again? Is this where I need to get the splash screen?
Matt, show us an interior mission map. So in Ship of Heroes, we've committed to having most of our content, not all, but a lot of it, in instanced missions, which means we're making instanced mission maps. So Matt has our featured hero ambassador out, and he's running through the first one we ever made. one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up and show it, we have shown it before, but you notice the ceiling is about 12 feet high. It's about 2 ambassadors, maybe it's 11 feet high or something. But this is a traditional kind of tight corridor space, and you can see differences in lighting as we run through it. All of these pieces, we purchase art assets, but we don't like purchase a level. We don't purchase a hallway, this sort of stuff. We created this. This is our own artistic vision. You can see there's actually quite a bit of change when you shift from the sort of gray neutral lighting to the blue lighting here. Different blue lighting, right? And so part of what we're doing here is we think this is a fun level, and part of it is we were experimenting, looking for alternatives. And we do encourage everyone to go on our forums and tell us what they think of this. We've shown this before, some tight spaces. Now we're getting to a little bigger space. Yes, we have advanced collision on it as well. Can you make that jump? This is why Matt is doing the demo, because I cannot make that jump. Platforming is really not my best thing. Yes, Matt, we've made a good call here. You are the demo.
I am a pro platformer.
You are a pro platformer. So now we're getting from those corridors into a much larger room, and you can see the base of the arch comes down. In our storyline, this room and this facility has a lot to do with the recovery and purification of unobtainium, which is the money in the game. People work for dust, unobtainium dust, which, if you're thinking, hey, is that like gold dust in the Old West? Yes, sort of, only much cooler. So what you're seeing here is this is a mission map. And right from this point of view, some of you who saw the Night of the Clones video we did about 6 weeks ago, where we had 300 cloned heroes in here fighting an enemy at the end, fighting a big boss, would recognize this room. But you can see large rooms, small rooms, corridors, big stuff, little stuff. We like a variety for the players. We like to give them options.
All right, we have a few questions here. One of them, I'll go backwards. Are instances just for you and your group, or is it open to any certain number of players that can get inside, such as shared dungeon areas?
So there can be a few shared dungeon areas, but when we say instances, we're really talking about a mission instance. So your team, or in some cases your task force, would go into an instance. And because positive community is a big thing for us, we're trying to design positive community in from the get-go. And one of the ways we do that is by eliminating the potential for kill stealing or for camping at sites for the boss to appear so you can kill him and get the unstoppable helmet of Hermes or whatever, right? We don't think players should have to do that. That if you have to camp or if people are kill stealing, that kind of weakens the whole positive gaming thing. So we don't encourage that.
Yeah, I remember that was one of my favorite facets of our conversation back at PAX, was about fostering and building up the positive community. And that struck a nerve with a lot of people who, gaming has gotten kind of a bad rap because it's kind of deserving a little bit of it. Yes. Now, a couple of the other questions. Oh, I got to bring my little mouse over here because it scrolled off the screen. All right, Mind Settings wanted to know if you were going to launch another Kickstarter, or how are you planning on letting people know about the game once it is finally ready? What kind of media blasting or such are you going to do to get the information out there?
My gosh, I am just tempted to say MJ is going to handle the whole thing for us and tell everyone. But we may use some additional tools as well. Right now we don't have another Kickstarter planned. Kickstarters do provide a lot of really good advertising, and that's not a crazy idea by any stretch of the imagination. But we don't have one planned at the moment, so it's not on the planning horizon, and it does take many months to pull a Kickstarter together. So I think we're going to continue to do what we have done before and use free media to advertise the game. We'll do interviews, and again, a lot of games, they're kind of very eager to get the maximum number of people to sign up immediately on day one. That's actually not our perspective. We think we want to get a nice crowd. We're looking for, there's a quality versus quantity thing here. We're looking for people who are intrigued by the story, people who want to play in this kind of a game. We think it naturally grows over time. It doesn't decline over time. because our model is a little different. It will be a subscription game. And since our plan is to get the subscription revenues and recycle them straight into more and more content continuously, and since we've kind of established a game that has enormous growth potential, there may be some who come in and want to join it later. That's cool. Again, as many positive people as we can get, but we don't need to have a huge launch at the outset with, 1 million players. That's not what we're headed for.
I really like that room we were just running around. I like the look of it. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was just like, yeah. Ooh. I like it's almost a little beehivey feeling along the walls and stuff. But you've got the purple, the gold, the energy coming down. I don't know. I really like the feel of this room.
Our lead environmental designer, Eric, did this. It's right out of his mind. We think of it as a kind of a control and power center. And by the way, we can make a map that has 4 or 5 of these in sequence. We, of course, also change the color spectrum. We can make them bigger, smaller. We can cut them in half because we make these from scratch. They're our creation. Hey, Matt, I'm sorry, before you leave there, run down below.
Yeah, can you jump over the edge? I like jumping over the edge of things. Yeah, okay, I'm happy. That's good.
So actually, this would be playable as well. And, we've given consideration this shape of a room. We put a lot of time into this. Lots of different things you can do in a room that has multiple levels. It's not all flat.
Nice. Oh, gosh. Now we've got, does the ship have a destination? Now, Ziggy, this is something that I know we talked about at PAX, that the ship is going to be kind of moving kind of from port to port in
Correct.
The universe is the idea, but it's going to take a long, long time to get to these ports. But then when you do, you're going to meet new people. You can take people on the ship. You can get off the ship. You can, so there are destinations in Moyne, but think of it, Moyne? What the heck? I don't know what kind of thing I'm trying to speak about now. But think of it like a wheel, a circuit. It's going to be going in the circle. So there's going to be other planets to visit, but the bulk of all the beginning play, all of that is really going to be on this first ship.
Correct. But again, the potential for this is unlimited. We're not trapped in one city. We don't have to do one architectural design. We don't have to do just one species. We can go world to world. And that is the ultimate goal. Because we're a very small team, starting a small game at the beginning, right? It'll have as much variety as we can throw in. But it's probably not going to be visiting worlds for a while, right? On the other hand, we can add levels to the ship more easily than we can add worlds, I would say. Matt's looking at a device we used as a glowy in a previous video when we demonstrated our teaming and mission instancing code in this same spot, I think, a few months back.
All right.
Isn't that right, Matt?
Yeah, we had a little combat scenario where we had some Prometheans hanging out here, and we had to take them out, then click on the mission glowy to exit. So.
Right. So ordinary bread and butter kind of game development, but you got to build it. Also, I always like to point something out. Ambassador was made in our character creator with our assets. We made this costume. We made Ambassador. This level made by us. The code coded by us. Each time we add something, we add it into the game because we have a working prototype. So I know people want to know when can they play, and the answer is, well, unfortunately not today, but we are looking for a beta at the end of 2018.
Yeah, I can't even get in, guys, and trust me, I was trying. All right, let's see. We've got a couple others we're going to throw in. Zora wants to know if you plan to allow for player-created add-ons or some form of player-created content. Great question, Zora. That's my question. I love that kind of question.
Well, yes, there are several mechanisms where that could happen. First off, we actually take recommendations and requests in our forums, including for costumes, characters, enemies, ideas, maps. So really, it's a very community-oriented effort developing this game, and people can be heard. So I'll just tell a little story. One of the first things I did is I put out in our forums a long time ago, I said, hey, people, please, throw your sketches in for costumes and all you'd like to see. And it turned out that only a couple of guys who are really, I would say, at the level of professional artists were willing to do that. Most players said, I could sketch a stick figure and tell you the top is red, right? But
That's better than what I could do, probably.
and I suddenly realized, actually, I couldn't do that myself. So we started allowing people to give descriptions and refer to things and give us feedback on the costumes that we were creating. So we like to take a lot of feedback. The second thing is we'd like to have a feature in the game, which we are most definitely not promising at launch, but we'd like to have a feature where missions could be created by players. You could go into a place and create your own mission, affect, design the map, not unlimited, because there's always that guy who'll say, I'm designing a map that's 400 miles by 700 miles, and that's not going to work. But you could design the map, you could choose the enemies, you could decide what kind of mission it is, you could put NPCs in the places you want, you could change their powers up from the standard power sets, right? So it would play very differently. Someone might run in saying, look, it's Yakus mercenaries, and then have them blast you with magic, which is not power sets that the Yakus usually have, right?
So basically a mission architect that is something you're...
Correct.
So, do we want to switch to another map?
Yeah. Oh, here, let me bring up the next page and...
I'll just say, before we switch, Matt, you can see that the mini-map is working in the lower right. And also, this is Ambassador's power tray in the center lower section. Matt, do you want to snap out his provoke power? Does that work here?
Oh, I already moved to the screen. Okay, I got to go back to game
now.
We can do that in the next map.
Yeah, we can do it in the next map.
Yeah.
No problem.
They actually can't see the mini-map much because Mo is hiding it.
Okay.
So while he's switching over, let's see, we've got a couple more. Let's see. Okay. Oh, BBB's question is, so are you equating building a community with only group content, or will there be solo options?
Oh, there's absolutely going to be solo content. I think there are a lot of solo play games out there that don't have group content, so I tend to talk about the group content. But I'll give an example. When I played City of Heroes, or when I play Star Wars, or when I play any MMO, I probably play 70% solo. In part because, particularly early days, I don't like to make a fool of myself with play mistakes in front of witnesses. I like
witnesses, man. Dreaded witnesses.
Exactly. I like to get a little bit better before I inflict myself on a team, even if they're also new, right? And so I do a lot of solo play, and that will certainly be an element here. Our missions are designed to scale with the number of players. So if you get a mission and you're doing it, having fun, doing it solo, man, have at it. That's great. And then if you decide, I'm bored, I wonder if anybody wants to join me on this mission, you should be able to add them to the mission and pull in a team. Teaming would not be required, but we're trying to set up a situation where it would be fun.
All right. Mind Setting's interested to know how you selected what inspired this art style. Oh, let me get back in the game. You're in.
Actually, this is still the old map, isn't it, Matt?
Is it?
No, this is the new map. This is a typical staging area for when players load in. You got to figure they're on a ship, so when a ship is built, you got to think in terms of tech. They have similar corridors for where you enter the elevator and enter a new section of the map.
That's right. And also in team gameplay, we do like to give everybody a place where the team can load in. So if one player loads ahead, and you wouldn't want to find a group of enemies just standing there, right? That would be nasty. Particularly if the poor healer loads in first and gets slaughtered. They won't like that. Okay, so this is a large new map, and it is I guess I could call it a storage area, a warehouse map. And one of the things you'll see is it's different. You can see artistic similarities to the last map, but you can also see it's different. And we're testing some things in this map. We think it'll be a mission map. Go ahead, MJ. I tend to talk too much. Go ahead.
Now that is one polished floor, man.
It is.
I could fix, I could see if there's anything in between my teeth in this floor. Holy cow.
Correct.
Very reflective surface. That is impressive.
Well, we are testing different surfaces, different looks. Again, we love it when people, come to our forums and give us feedback on, I like this and I didn't like that. You notice we've put a lot of ramps in here. You didn't see these kinds of ramps in the last one. There are more shelves, more space. Also, ceiling, very high here. And we're doing that in part because some mission maps actually should facilitate teams or players who are going to fly to get missions. I often get the question, hey, do you have to fly?
No, but why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'm always puzzled. You don't want to? And what people generally tell me is they say, well, I was hoping for super speed or super jump or teleport or something. I didn't want to be forced to only have flight. And I said, well, yeah, we're not really big on forcing anything except politeness. So, you can choose your travel power. If you decide not to choose flight of the kind that Ambassador is showing, which is inherent flight. Hey, Matt, that's new, isn't it? Did Eric just put that in?
Yeah, this was done last night. This room was.
Wait, what is that thing? I've never seen it before.
Exactly.
What is that in my game?
It's actually an exciting thing about working with a fairly decent-sized team is that you're working and you don't check a map out for a little while, then you go and you look at it, and it's like you get to play a game yourself. So it's been pretty entertaining for me.
Oh, nice.
Before I was startled by that, yes, that is actually great. I was going to say, if you chose super speed, you could get a jetpack, which would be a prop add-on that would give you flight, right, as an alternative. So you wouldn't have to give up like an attack or defense superpower in order to take 2 travel powers. So we're planning to arrange it so you can always get the ability to go up vertically. I find it kind of annoying in a game if you can see stuff 20 feet up and you can't get there. I don't like that myself, and I don't think I'm alone.
Yeah, okay, let's see. Now, BBB is excited that he heard scaling. He loves that. Zora said, I've got to say, the concept behind a ship traveling world to world as a way to variate the environment is short of a stroke of genius to me.
Oh, I like him or her.
And see, Jada, to me, MMOs are about building a world, so having varying levels of difficulty, scaling, group, and solo is very fitting. And Nightbot spanked Welsh Troll. Sorry, not sure why. Too many caps, I guess. Oh, will you be able to simulate hard foes without having to increase your party size? So will you be able to change your difficulty level while still being a solo player?
Absolutely. So what we're planning right now, and this is not fully coded, so I like to say when we've done something and when we're planning to do something, is you'd have a difficulty level, and we would probably go down 2 or 3 levels and up 2 or 3 levels. So in a mission, if you want to get harder bosses, you could just set your mission +2 or +3, right? We also like, and again, not coded yet, but we're working on it. If you wanted to get larger mobs or smaller mobs and more bosses, more lieutenants, a higher proportion of really difficult opponents, you could do that.
By larger and smaller, do you mean more or fewer? Or
Yes.
Do you mean size-wise, taller or bittier?
Not taller.
Okay.
Greater or lesser in number.
Okay. Well, I just want to check because maybe you want to make little, mouse-size killer things all around, and then you walk in thinking you're safe, and they swarm, and,
So the ultimate uber boss is 6 inches high. That would actually be sort of...
Oh, look at this cute little... Ah! Yeah, I can imagine
killed
that.
by tribbles. Okay. You can see that the lighting changed in this room as well to sort of golden green on my screen. And, we are working with different lighting for different effects. We've experimented quite a bit. This is not the final setting for the lighting here, but we are looking at stuff, trying to get feedback from the community, what they like better. We also kind of think that when we run through these mission maps, we like to have rooms that have different levels and different colors of light. And if you think about how a team would operate in an environment like this, certainly teams I'm on, people say, hey, wait, where are you? I'm looking at the mini map. Where are you guys? If you can say, oh, good work, Matt, crouch under that thing. Yes. If you can say, hey, we're in the big yellow room. Are you in the big blue room? The guy says, oh, okay, never mind. That is actually a quick instruction that most people, they really get it. So again, setting some of the design up to facilitate teaming. I know we had a question or two. What about solo play? Yeah, in solo play, you don't need to tell your buddies that you're in the big yellow room. But we still find it fun to move room to room.
Yeah, and then you have, your colorblind friends, and you say, "Are you in the red or the green room?" And they go, "Like I know."
That is true. That is true. Which is why the rooms actually have other differences. So, you know,
I am in the room with the little flesh-eating mice, and you are in the room with the jacuzzi. Okay, we'll get that figured out. All right, Ziggy wanted to know if you have custom scripting system for designers, or are you relying on Blueprint? Curious on how non-coder friendly the tools are.
well, actually, I think we do both scripting and blueprints. I should probably let Matt answer this.
We have both C++ and Blueprint. From a player's endpoint, you'll have a friendly tool that will be easy to use to set up missions and what have you. From the developer standpoint, ours is a little bit more technical. But for players, we're going to be working towards making it as easy to create custom missions and what have you as possible. We want it to be intuitive and familiar to players.
Nice. All right. How highly do you rate your priorities, lore, and building a narrative compared to gameplay and other core features?
Well, this is an interesting point. I would say we're absolutely committed to both, but we are putting a focus on the first thing to do is get the gameplay and the features going. We have established a good deal of lore. We have a setting, we have a ship, we have an art style. We know why we're here. We know why our enemies are fighting us, and we know what we're fighting for. Apotheosis City is fundamentally a place worth fighting for. It's beautiful, valuable, important to the survival of humanity, which is, for us, that's a little bit in the lore side, a little bit of a pushback against the constant stream of dystopian and post-apocalyptic games where, you're one of the last 11 guys and you've got to decide which of you is going to get eaten first. Right? We don't think that's fun. So we're looking for something beautiful. We're looking for something fun. Well, I see Matt has placed a small Christmas present here for Ambassador to find. This is a little bit of code from our Christmas video. And he got money. Oh, good.
Now, you're saying that you know the story. You know why it's there. You know all this. How are you going to disseminate that information to people playing the game? Are they going to have to read forums? Are there going to be books, monuments? Are there going to be things they can find and read around town? How are they going to be drawn into this story that you're saying that you have?
Almost all the story is going to be revealed through gameplay. The stuff we're setting, like we've told you, it's the FHS Justice. That we think that's backstory, it's setting. It's stuff that people need to know. We actually polled on this very extensively on our forums and our website and found that the overwhelming majority of the community did not want us to publish the story Bible or the storybook. They want to discover it through gameplay. So, for example, what we're doing is we've explained who the Yakus mercenaries are. We've explained who the Nagdelians are. These are all enemy groups. We've explained who the Prometheans are. We've explained that there's a red sigil group of evil magic users. We're explaining who they are, but we're not telling you everything about them. We're giving you enough to get in and play the game and have fun. And that's what our community has asked us for. Coming back to the original question, we do focus very heavily on gameplay. We focus heavily on constructing the game because we're certain that we have more than enough story. But what we won't do, for example, is we won't say, hey, I've got a great idea for a mission. What if Ambassador turns into a toad and then, gets the power to travel through time to 1970s Detroit? No, we're not doing that. We don't have transformation. That mission would add 2 years to the game's duration as we try to do transformation, as we try to build a map of 1970s Detroit. No. You've got to control the scope because for a small indie team like us, building a game that works, that has really interesting powers, that has really good gameplay, that is optimized so people can jump in and enjoy it on the first day is very, very important. And there is always a fascinating story that can be told about a well-crafted game. But there is not always a well-crafted game associated with every good story.
Oh, the conversation in chat right now has moved to wanting to know about. I'm trying to keep the coughing fits from coming, guys. Sorry. The being able to tool around as far as the UI goes. Will there be a way for people to mod the UI, Lua, or different kits that can, people can change the UI up themselves, or is it going to be mostly what options you guys offer? Oh, sorry, that cough is about to choke me here.
No problem. You can mute and get a sip of water while I talk about the UI for a moment. So our UI right now is the result of some very helpful input from the community. We had a big discussion about what it should be and how it should look and colors and appearance. We took that seriously. In general, when we launch, what we've said is we want you to be able to adjust a lot of stuff. So for example, right now you're seeing one power bar for Ambassador in the lower center. But we want you to be able to have 2 or 3 power trays like that. We want you to be able to make them vertical or horizontal. We want you to be able to move them around anywhere you want on the screen. Maybe you don't want the chat box that large or that small. Maybe you want to make it disappear. This sort of thing, yes. In terms of saying to people, hey, you should either know or learn Lua in order to modify your UI, probably not. Our general impression is we shouldn't demand that players have or understand third-party software tools in order to play the game. They should be able to get in and make things work. If they can't, then we have not succeeded. We need to do better. I'd just like to say a word or two, if I could, about this particular part of the mission map. So we're experimenting with some stuff. Thanks, Matt. Run down to the bottom there. So if you run under here, you see, hey, how high is that ceiling? Is that 12 feet? Okay, so we're back to maybe 12 feet. And you've got multiple layers straight above this. So when Eric and I were talking about this, I said, hey, Eric, make me one of these with 8 levels, 10 levels, 12 levels. And he went, you sure you want that? But there was a map in City of Heroes, which was often called the layer cake map. And I will say I had trouble with that map, in part because, it was a cave structure. But the general idea of having different maps with different ceiling heights, that I think is kind of intriguing. Not seen it anywhere else. And, we're kind of experimenting here. So we're hoping that as a result of this live stream, we'll get some feedback and people will come in and say, hey, I did or did not like multiple ceiling heights. I did not like the 10-foot ceiling, but I did like the 20-foot ceiling, And as you go up, ceiling heights change again. So you could see running through this, one of the things we've considered for a map like this is, what if there's a nullification field that turns off travel powers? Oops. That could give, complexity to the game. Also, if you think about these big maps, and these are big rooms and big maps that we're showing here, both of these examples. There are a lot of different ways to play it. I will say that in a lot of games, I kind of like to run through and kill all the enemies. Maybe that's a personality trait, but I have played stealth characters who would want the big room for obvious reasons, because it gives you many more paths to get around enemies, particularly if they're moving or if they have anti-stealth powers, both of which will be in our game, right? So you could see that. Also, another element here, if you're playing a mission in this, you could see, what if you set this mission, this is MJ in response to a question we had a little bit. What if you set this to get triple bosses and small mobs? And you discover that, oh, hey, I also set it up to +3. Those aren't bosses. I've got 3 archvillains here. Uh-oh. Maybe the big room's an advantage because you only really want to fight one of those guys at a time. Fighting 3 arch bosses at a time by surprise, that could be team wipe. So, the big rooms, they give us some options. We will also have ordinary office building mission maps and other stuff, but we're trying to push the boundaries here a little bit. There's not a lot of uncertainty about what a well-organized office with offices and cubes and meeting rooms and that sort of stuff looks like. Mission maps like this are actually a little different. Hey, Matt, can you turn left and run up the stairs? Does that go inside? It does. It goes inside, doesn't it? that's where we were before when I was surprised.
Yeah.
That's why I'm remembering it. Okay. Well, the wonders of live streaming. Yes. Okay.
All right, so a couple other questions. This one's from me. So you've talked about a mission architect, which is really cool because being able to display creativity in game is a huge thing for me, at least personally. I don't know about all the rest of you. It doesn't matter. It's just what I care about, right? So point number 2, though, you've got all these cool maps, these cool things. Is there going to be some type of player housing? Are they going to have a place to decorate, call their own, show off their stuff, and explore that type of visual creativity as well?
So the answer to that is yes, but we're not guaranteeing it at launch. Again, we're a small team, limited budget, so I do always like to call out and say, in addition to, being the CEO, one of my jobs is to say we're going to complete the mission. And custom bases, fascinating stuff. I always like to have them, and I like to decorate them too. But that may come a little bit after launch. Almost certainly not at beta, because we're only 11 months from beta and we haven't started that code yet. So
y'all have to sleep on the streets, man. Sleep on the streets.
Exactly. Well, my view is you can always run into the auction house, or run into the security building, or stand on top of the arch and just take a super nap.
Well, I mean, it's not like, okay, so are you gonna have weather effects inside, like sleeping on the street out in, you're in a ship, you're in a controlled environment? Is that going to be fine? Is it always going to be sunny and happy? Or are we going to have some storms and stuff like that going on, random lightning shooting everywhere?
By the way, Matt is showing an interesting lighting effect when it's dark. What's that power look like? You can really see things do pop in the dark more. One of the little challenges for us is making sure the powers look good in the dark and in the bright light. In answer to your question, we're not going to launch with weather. We think we'd rather have more powers, more archetypes. If somebody said to me, the choice is, and it could reasonably be, launch with controllers or launch with weather. For me, that's a no-brainer. I'm choosing controllers, right?
All right.
Similarly, if someone said, well, we've got controllers, launch with masterminds or launch with weather, again, I would choose masterminds because I think it provides more direct fun for the players.
So it's perfectly safe to sleep on the street. You're not going to get wet. There you go.
It is. I like to think that if the Nagdelians invade while you're asleep, you will wake up.
All right. So a lot of people are expressing happiness actually about the idea of variety in the game designs and being able to personalize stuff. I know Zora asked about character customization, and I do believe that that was one of the components of City of Heroes that you kind of wanted to bring along to the game to make it, people could really customize themselves to be individual. So I do believe that will be pretty exciting. I don't know. Are you going to be able to change the nose size? Are we going to have that kind of sliders going? I don't quite remember. Yes. That was such a long time ago we were talking about that. We've moved on to maps now.
Right now, we have multiple morphs affecting the nose. And we're trying to say, we're actually doing an internal work right now. Matt is leading that up to say, do we actually need all of these morphs? We need some additional morphs we don't have, but if you make a male, a female, a big guy, ambassador's a big guy in that troika, you've got 300, 400, 500 morphs you can apply. Not sure how many we actually need. So we are trying to probably slim it down a little bit, but yes, you will be able to make enormous customization if we have our way, like nothing you've ever seen before. So we really like being able to customize the look of the character, select which model. We're starting with 3 models, not just with 1. So male, female, and big guy. Obviously, select from a wide variety of costumes. And of course, colors, you can make them all match, or you could literally give your guy or your gal, yellow socks and purple shoes. I don't think that's a problem. Let freedom reign, right? Let people do what they want to do. So We will have high customization. One of the questions I often get on our forums is, hey, will people be able to customize their powers? Will I be able to make, a fireball green and all? And this is still up for grabs. I'll answer, yeah, some customization is absolutely going to be in there. We actually have questions because there are cues coming from the powers, right? Healing in our game is primarily green. Energy enhancement or recovery is primarily blue. Some things are damage and poison, right? So if you're throwing a healing spell, should it really be black and purple? Maybe not, right? But maybe somebody wants it. So we're trying to balance that, and we don't have a final answer. But people will be able to customize colors and effects to some degree.
To slip in about the character customization that Casey was just mentioning is that during our alpha test, we did realize that some of the sliders were a bit excessive. Like, I mean, how many different ways do you really need to customize a nose?
Hey, the nose is a sacred point here. So,
all right, yeah. I mean, you got the eyes and the nose. They like define the whole character. I like mess with character creators all the time. Those are always the first two things I go to is the eyes and the nose. As soon as I'm done with that, I can customize the rest of the character. Those are good, But no, there's still going to be a lot of customization for characters. We're just gonna kind of slim them down because not too much. Just there's if we got one thing that's already doing something, then we don't need another thing doing the same thing, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Let's see. Zora, glad to hear about players' agency. No hero wants to look like the other guy.
Correct.
Destructible environment. Ziggy wants to hear, are there going to be destructible things in the environment?
So not at launch. If you think about, I'm sure, MJ, you could make a list of the number of MMOs who have said, man, are we going to have destructible environments, tunnel under the city walls and do a zillion things, and then they weren't able to do it. Destructible is tricky. It's a big code challenge, and it's complex to implement. So we've said not at the start, because this is one of those items that's really cool, but it also leads to out-of-control scope problems.
Yeah, now, what if somebody, punches holes in your ship's outer hull?
Well, yes, in that case, they couldn't actually do it because the ship's outer hull at its thinnest point is 24 feet thick. If you run over to the windows, that's the thinnest point of the hull. So when we showed that picture at the outset, where the ship is 20.4 miles long, and you go to the windows, what that actually means is the thin point of the hull is 24 feet. And it is a super alloy of the future, right? So, but I get the point here. If everything was destructible, then, how would you work that out in a spaceship, right? Now, what we'd like to do, we actually thought that City of Heroes had a very interesting idea when they made missions where you could go in and a lot of stuff in the mission was destructible. That's possible. We like that idea.
Yeah, because what if you've got a wall that somebody could punch through and there's something hidden behind it?
Correct.
Mission-wise, but maybe not out in the general world.
Now, that kind of thing we like. Putting in a mission where you've got to blow up a wall or blast through a door, that stuff is completely doable. I mean, just sort of a generic tunnel anywhere idea. It might not thematically make sense on a spaceship, and it's very difficult to do code-wise.
Yeah, Danik, developers need to know character creator must have the following: a small nose option and a good selection of red hairstyles. Yes. I'm a little predictable now, okay? All right, and silhouettes and iconic details are more important than minutia. I value immediacy when it's about recognizing characters. And Ziggy says the Hulk can do it, so he can smash through anything.
That's true. But remember, we can't create Hulk because he's intellectual property of another company.
Yes. Heroes with super strength would love to grab cars and toss them around. So that's something Zora's asking about. Or not so much asking, but putting out there.
True.
Zooks wants to know if these character animations are just placeholders right now.
Our character animations are constantly evolving. They are not placeholders. So in fact, I've been asked this a couple of times, and one guy asked me, so if, level 0 is we slap something in so he can move, and level 10 is we're done, don't ask about it again, We're somewhere at like level 5 or 6.
I would say that it's more a matter of polishing. There's still room for polishing all the time.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, there's certain things like, for instance, there's our running animation, for example. That I don't like that the hands are really straight while he's running. I've never been wild about that, but that's easy fixes. It's stuff like that we can polish, and we sure do plan to.
He's standing there like he has swimmy floaties on his upper arms.
Armor, and you can take them off. And
I mean, the big guy, I can see it maybe with the big guy with his arms bulked out like that. But that's one thing I've always hated, the arms that don't hang down but like stick a little bit farther out.
Yep, a guy that's heavily muscled, it's reality. We modeled this character on an actual human being.
Yeah, if you actually look at really big muscle builders, that's how they stand.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just meaning, like I said, on the big guy, I can see this, but you've got the other male character and the female character, which
their arms are straight down. They don't stand out like that.
They don't get muscles.
Well, I like to think that their muscles are super muscles, but small.
It's not always in the fiber of the muscle. There's brain and
correct,
and maybe it's just someone's breath. Hey, super bad breath. I know people with some powers like that. That's
unfortunately, it's all too common a superpower. I think yes.
All right. So, how many environments then? How many mission environments have you gotten completed now? So we've run around at what we've seen. What 3, 4 different.
Yeah, so the exterior and 2 mission maps. We have another mission map that we're polishing up right now. One of the things about this is, if you look like at this room, we could connect this room to something else. It doesn't have to be just the way it is now. The corridors can be connected. We can sort of pull this apart reasonably easily and reconfigure it. So we could make 100 mission maps using these components. And so what we're doing with showing these early mission maps is trying to get feedback so that later on people don't say, hey, all the mission maps have these polished floors. I don't like that. Because, if that's really a problem for people, then we want to hear about it now. Or I don't want to see any mission maps that, don't have at least, a maximum of 12-foot ceilings. If someone says that, they're destined for disappointment because this is a game with flight. But, we get feedback and we look for it. So we could put 4 of these rooms in sequence and just make one long super room with 4 central pillars in it and open it up. So for us, getting the pieces assembled into rooms and onto maps, it's really important because we can make a lot more maps from these.
All right, Zooks would like to know, with these large open flat floors, you've got the basic structure, but do you plan on adding lots of little props or prefabs, things to make it look more organic?
Yes, and of course the room would look quite different if it had 130 enemies in it, which is also a factor. But yes, there will be more additional props as well. So right now we're setting kind of a basic situation. It is for us kind of helpful to run around in the empty room. It gives us ideas, allows us to plan scaling and motion. There's a lot to it, but the answer to the question is yes, there'll be a lot more props and enemies.
Can you sit in chairs?
Enemies. Yeah.
Can you sit in chairs? There's a big
yes.
one. Nice.
I think we've done that in at least one video.
A couple videos, yeah.
Yeah.
People sitting around and whatnot.
That was just mine. That is just something that irks me in games, especially MMORPGs. That you go and everybody's like got to stand around when there are all these couches and chairs and everything, and everyone's just kind of standing there. That has always just annoyed me.
You're gonna love this one then.
Oh, Mind Setting says female models are on point though. Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen these guys. They keep playing Ambassador, so.
That's funny. We get people telling us, you only show the males, Scott. You only show the males. So then we show the females. Then we get guys telling us, why don't you ever show any males? You only show females. So then we go back and then, you know, it flips around. So then we show some of both. And we get, why don't you ever show, you know, unisex teams? And sometimes there's no winning, right? But we do rotate it around a little bit. I think we showed Meltdown in our Christmas video, and the other signature heroes were cameos.
It's offline. You can't have a superhero game without flying. I'm sorry, people. Flying.
You know, I don't like games where I can't fly. I guess there's probably some guys out there saying, you know, that's Freudian. It's a power thing. You got to fly or something. But I like to fly.
I'll slip in there and say about the flight. When we first got flying working, I had never played a game personally or even worked on a game where you could fly around just as a person. And it was absolutely entertaining because the first time I got to try it, we were in the city and I'm flying around, jumping on buildings, and I'm just having a blast. I probably sat there just, you know, you get that like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I just played too many games, but I get the motion sickness thing. For like if you jump off a really high building and you're coming down, you get that gut feeling. It's like a roller coaster, but you're not in a roller coaster. You still get the feeling. I just had a blast doing it. Flying in the game is so much fun. You see me all the time in any video we make. I'm always trying to fly everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I love to fly. I love going up in small planes. Yeah. So my question, so we've got a lot of the mission maps are all these very interior ship design and everything. Are you creating any that are more organic? I mean, you've got outside the town, you've got trees and grass, and, you know, do you have any, you know, more cave natural things? Because personally, I would get sick of the constant metal, of the constant, just being surrounded by metal and by, you know, man-made materials all the time. I would go nuts with that. So are you going to have mission areas, you know, early on or something where you're involving caves or outdoory things, something where there's actual life, nature?
Outdoors, yes, absolutely. We have several areas that are, in fact, you know, trees, grass, flowers, big areas, and again, not flat because the rolling terrain gives you some interesting possibilities, both tactically and to be surprised if you run up around a curve and there's 6 enemies there with blasters, right? So definitely in nature. In terms of caves, like running underground, this is actually an interesting question because UE4 makes caves difficult. And we love the UE4 engine, but caves are a tricky thing and we're still exploring it. So I would say probably not in the first level here, where you know that underneath Apotheosis City, you've got this, we've already established in the lore, you know, you've got this sub-levels that are related to the engineering portion directly below that, right? So it's kind of machinery modern here. But what, for example, would be beneath the harvest pit, which is all green environment, dangerous green environment, but all, that would be the place to have caves. So each level will be different and there will be different stuff to choose from. So I think I answered that question. Hope I did.
Yes, good. Cause yeah, it just, I mean, that's a personal thing to me. There just reaches a point where it feels repetitive. It looks repetitive. You can change, you know, metal walls so many times, but still be like, oh my gosh, I need out of these walls and I need to see something green and growing that's not trying to kill me. Although maybe the green growing stuff is trying to kill you too. That is.
I will say that in City of Heroes, I got tired of the caves because there weren't enough interior manufacturing like this. And in particular, when I was first playing City, I had an unfortunate habit of running into the walls, and it was the first MMO I ever played, and running into the walls and taking like 10 seconds to recover, where am I, what's going on, during which time I could easily be beaten to death by enemies. So.
We've got a few people actually, like at the same time, they're asking what other specific travel powers are going to be at launch, and if not at launch, what other ones will be available. Now, you were talking about adding in jetpacks so people could have a travel power and still be able to go vertical, but some are talking about, of course, wanting to run up the side of buildings or etc. Travel powers. Give us the
Okay, super speed and teleport and flight are what we've said will be there at launch. And I will just, for those who haven't ever thought about it, game engines, and we're using the truly superb Unreal 4 engine, they have inside them what is often called a physics engine. So if you think you're going to run straight up the side of a building, physics actually doesn't really support that very well, because if you take your first step, 1 foot's on the ground and 1 foot's on the building, you can go up. Once you've got 2 feet pressing against the side of a building, you tend to push yourself away from the building, which leads to you falling backwards on your back. And it works that way in real life, and it works that way in a game engine. So you have to kind of like start fiddling with the physics engine inside the game engine. Whenever Matt and I come to a point where we say, well, why don't we just mod the engine? That's a red light for both of us. As we say, well, wait a second here. Is that a feature we absolutely have to have? Is that worth modding the engine? Because, you know, the engine's the core, and you get engine mods from, in our case, from Epic. You want to stay current with the engine mods, and if you're modding the engine, then that means every time you get an engine mod from Epic, you got to redo your engine mod.
Yeah.
It's, in terms of software development, that is not really recommended.
Yeah, because
so
anything you do could mess up something that I totally get that. On different game servers that I do, I won't even put mods on because it's just, no, I'd rather just not mess with it. And why would you want to be spending all your time going back and fixing that to make that work when you could be doing something new?
Correct. We could be writing new missions. We could be creating new maps. We could be adding powers and archetypes, which we think for the community that's formed on our forums, those are the core things they want to see. I do say, you know, I get it. People are saying, well, ordinary organic superflight, that doesn't do it for the story I want to tell. Well, super speed, jetpack, teleport. We get a lot of requests for web slinging, but that's not in the cards either, because really there's only, that I know of, one web slinging comic hero, and we don't want his owner calling us.
Well, not web slinging, but here you've got some people in chat wanting just a grappling hook type of power.
Now, a grappling hook power could be
doesn't have to be a web. Doesn't have to be a web. It can be a grappling hook.
Correct. You got to think about how that works too, because that also has physics.
No, that's doable.
Yeah.
You can do grappling hook.
You heard it, guys. It's doable.
Well, you know, again, a lot of the things that we go for, like, again, we were talking about animations earlier and polishing and stuff. Well, it's like we got a lot of feedback all the time, people wanting to play the game, like ASAP. So some of the things we might not have them at launch, but then, you know, patches come after launch. And that might be one of the things that either is at launch or is at patch. It just depends on, you know, time frames and what have you.
You tell people that grappling hooks are in the third pod. They have to work their way through to the third of the 20. You get there, you'll find the grappling hooks. All right, Zooks wants to know about character progression of some sort at endgame. Now, from the sound of it, now this game, of course, sounds like it's going to be all about continually adding and developing. You know, you've got those 20 levels, you've got planets to get to and everything. But you know there are going to be people that zoom through stuff, get done with the story and the whatever that's there now, and they're sitting back and waiting. What kind of end game, what kind of progression, what can they still do when they've finished what you currently have out? Or do you think, I don't think any dev can actually maintain a development schedule to stay above those people that can do 1 to 90 in 30 hours or that craziness. Right. That's not me, but I know they're out there.
So I'll address that question of endgame. First off, we don't like the idea of there being endgame content, but because it suggests that you're going to come in, play for a while, get to the end game, fight the final boss, and leave, as if it's a single-player game with 40 hours of content. You want to get in, get out, get done. We're trying to build a game that fosters positive community, which means you're there, you're having fun, but you're doing it in a friendly environment that you want to come back to. And an essential element of that, in addition to the positive community, is that missions should be repeatable. And so one of the things we're building is we're building the capability for there to be repeatable missions that you can do at any level. You could do them at level 1, you could do them at level 20, do them at level 50, do them at level 90. And of course, obviously they would scale to your difficulty, right? You could also set, regardless of your level, you could set the difficulty and level around you. You could save them, which we think is a really good idea. If you find a mission that you just love, why shouldn't you be able to save it and play it as many times as you want? And, in our view, that mission, if you find a map you love and a set of enemies you love, why shouldn't you be able to do it more than once and get rewards for it? That mission will play very differently if you put extra bosses into it, or if you bring two friends in with you. You should be able to have not just a farm mission or two, you should be able to have your own collection. And you should be able to play other people's farm missions if they invite you into them. So for us, repeatable content is really our answer to what's the end game. Certainly we're going to launch, our plan is to launch with 20 levels, and we want to get to 50 levels pretty quickly. So if you run through the 20 levels and you're tapping your toe saying, when does the next patch come out? Repeatable missions are the answer.
There's also the architect.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. If you put in that mission architect, you're going to have people making content.
That's true. And I will say too that
new creative stuff that maybe people haven't seen before.
Correct. And I'll say too that if you take a player and you run through to level 20 and you've got your repeatable missions and you're saying, gee, now I'm bored, why don't you go back and make one of the other archetypes, because they're going to play very differently. If you made a tank, go make a healer. You made a healer, go make a controller. You made a controller, go make a damage dealer, either ranged or melee. Experiment. All the missions play very differently depending upon what archetype you are.
All right, Starbuck wants to know, will we be able to make characters based off 2 major comic franchises? That's sticky stuff there, Starbuck. People can get in trouble for that.
The answer to that is no. Full stop. No, you cannot make Batman. No, you cannot make Wolverine. No, 1,000 times no. We don't own that IP.
Getting sued sucks. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we'd like to do levels 8 through 10 now, but we've got to pay off, copyright infringements. Yeah, that probably wouldn't go so well. Ooh, that is a good question, Zooks. So you've got friends in high places, friends in low places. Is there going to be some kind of sidekick or level scaling or something so people can play together and not get messed up?
Yes, we absolutely want to develop that. Again, I'm choosing my words. We have not got that coded yet, but we do have that in our specs. We think that's an essential piece of, again, the positive community. If you come in and you love the game and you're level 17 and your buddy joins and he or she's level 1, man, you got to be able to jump in. So maybe if you're doing their missions, you're going to drop from 17 to 2. Maybe if you're allowing your friend to jump in on your mission, the friend might be level 16. I think in games where this is possible, I think it's sometimes challenging to be level 1 in reality and suddenly jump in at a higher level, because you may only have a couple of attack powers, right? You may not have a full chain. That can be a limit, but if it's your friend, you probably don't mind, right? You'll figure it out. And then the alternative always exists. Well, if it's hard for your friend to become level 16 in that example, why don't you become level 2? Try it again.
How about how many power sets are expected at launch, and describe the power sets?
Sure. So a typical power set for us has about 10 powers. And we're guaranteeing for sure, a tank roll, a melee damage dealer, a ranged damage dealer, and a support class, which is usually healing and buff or healing and debuff. Now, our ranged damage dealer is a little different than some because it is range damage and largely self-buff, maybe a team buff or two. And the point of that is you give somebody who's, say, been a blaster or a sorcerer or something, a damaging mage, you give them a lot of damage and they're a glass cannon. So the weakness of that is they're not necessarily as fun to play as they could be. And what we're doing is we're giving them 5, 10, 15 seconds of special self buffs with long cooldowns so they can hang in the fight against a real tough enemy for 15 or 20 seconds. They cannot hang in the fight for 5 minutes. They're going to be killed if they're soloing, an arch-villain and thinking that it's going to take 5 minutes. They've got to have a better plan than that. But typically power sets, 10 to 12 powers. I say 12 because some have taunt powers and some don't. And we are promising at least 4 or 5 primary damage powers for melee, 4 or 5 primary damage powers for ranged, along with 4 or 5 secondary power sets, which will be defensive, resistance, this sort of thing for those guys. And then for healers, I'll use healers as an example of support. So a healer is a heal as their primary power sets, and there'll be 4 or 5 to choose there, and damage as a secondary, and a ranged damage character is the reverse. A little bit in some games. And again, we're saying we'll have 4 or 5 power sets in primary and secondary for those 2 archetypes as well. I can say right now we are actually preparing animations and some powers for a first controller power set, which we hope to have in the game when it launches. Not quite sure about that, but we are working on it anyway.
All right.
MJ, did I actually answer that question? I think I got a field there a little bit.
Well, it's wandering sometimes is good too.
Okay.
I think it answered. So a couple other questions we've got. BBB was wondering how could police people trying to make their favorite characters in game. I mean, some of that you can do with what costume things are available maybe, and definitely watching like the names.
Correct. So names are pretty easy. That can be automated, although we'll also have a system asking people, if you see someone that you think is questionable, please report it. Positive community means we don't let our neighbors get the whole game shut down with a lawsuit. Another element is we're not designing, like a helmet with bat ears and a bat cape. There is no add-on to give yourself 3 adamantium claws on each hand, right? So some things are straightforward. We're not enabling it right at the outset.
Right, and I can understand that. I mean, that you don't want to end up in hot water with a big company because
correct.
You're probably not going to win.
Just waste everybody's time.
The legal grounds there is kind of iffy too. Like if you have a bunch of random pieces in your character creator for various outfits, and someone makes something that looks similar by assorting different costume pieces, and they're not affiliated with the corporation, they just picked random pieces, they're just a player, then we're not actually legally liable, as far as I know. They just happen to assort a set of pieces and change the colors of the pieces, and now it looks like Wolverine. It doesn't look exactly like him, and we didn't intend for that. So it's a matter of intent. First, any kind of lawsuit like that would have to prove intent.
Right.
That's my understanding. So I mean that there is a blanket there.
So the cowl and the cape, obviously, those are just gonna be a no. But maybe we can have a little fuzzy panda cowl, you don't need bat ears, but fuzzy panda. Okay, never mind. All right, let's move on. Zooks wants to know about in-game economy. Is it going to exist? What items will be tradable, sellable, market, auction house? Give the scoop on the money aspect. Making money, sharing money.
Absolutely. In-game currency is called dust, unobtainium dust, but usually just called dust. And in the standard method, you'll get dust every time you make a kill. And from some other things, you saw Matt's character in this live stream open a present earlier and get 100 dust. That's our in-game money. You will be able to buy things, both from NPCs and from an auction house. You will be able to sell things to NPCs and the auction house. You'll be able to craft. Now I'm going to say we definitely want to have crafting if we can at the launch, but that is not done yet, so it could be delayed. But buying and selling will not be delayed. That will be in at launch. And as well, you know, like lots of games, you'll get stuff from defeated foes. Now, I'm answering about the money there. You'll be able to build up your money. You'll be able to save it for more valuable stuff. You'll also be able to spend it on things like augments to increase your powers, the range, damage, accuracy, or for your defensive powers, you know, increase defense, lower energy costs, this sort of stuff. So lots to buy and sell. That element of the game is undoubtedly going to expand over time.
Now, here's a question that's for me. So this is actually one of my favorite kind of concepts. So in a player economy, my favorite best thing is really that NPCs don't really offer much of anything. NPCs don't, unless, like, so you've got the, let's just call him the merchant. So he's got a few little, I don't know, basic, it's got a basic hat and a basic knife and I don't know. So he's got those things. Now, I've always preferred the crafting economy, that the players are making the biggest things. But one of the funnest parts of this system that doesn't seem to happen much of anywhere is, like, the only way the NPCs have better stuff is literally if the players go and unload the stuff on them. So, such as, I went and looted this really cool necklace out of the gut of this, you know, giant Venus flytrap over there. But I don't want it. I don't like it. I want to get something for it. I don't want to sell it on the auction house. It doesn't, you know. So you, like, sell it to the merchant, and then someone else comes along and is like, hey, look, there's a necklace there. I kind of want to grab that. Or in crafting situations where a person is making a lot of something to try to become better at making something else, then they've got all these little pieces, you know. You could sell them on an auction house or maybe sell them to a vendor. Is anything like that ever something that's been considered?
Oh, absolutely. You'd have the option to sell to vendors and sell to the auction house. If we think the vendor should have some items sort of ready to go, and a lot of what's going to be sold and bought with vendors are consumables of various kinds, right? So we're not going to call it this, but, you know, power-up potions and basic augmentations and this sort of stuff. We do think that crafters should be able to make better stuff than NPCs are selling. That's part of the game. But we don't want to force anyone to craft. That is absolutely not in the plan. On the other hand, some people want to craft. I myself, I like to craft. We've got a couple of our devs who love to harvest and are okay with crafting on occasion. So we have a mix. We've got some that just actually want to run in and play, don't want to be bogged down with either harvesting or crafting. So they might fit into, MJ, into your description of someone who's got some cool stuff, really doesn't want to be saddled with it, but would like to get a decent price for it. And that will be possible both in the auction house and in the vendors.
But then could another person buy the item off the vendors, or is it just pull it out of the economy?
Not sure yet. I don't see necessarily why we would pull it out of the economy, but one of the tricks here is making sure you don't end up with inflation in an economy. So we've got to have some sinks for inflation, and in some sense, really valuable goods are also sinks. So getting people to buy them is good.
All right, let's see. Zooks wants to know if usable items or equipment will change your character's appearance.
No. No, in our game, your appearance is your appearance. Your powers are your powers. So this is not a game where you'll get the super armor of Zeus and then load it on and change your appearance. That's not how it goes. The game is more strategic than that, where you've got your inherent superpowers and you're going to choose some of them. And, well, actually, you're going to choose all of them. And then you're going to augment them. So let me give an example. This was asked earlier, and I should have explained this at the time. If your power set has 10 powers, your offensive power set, probably you're going to choose 4 or 5 or 6 of those 10. You're not going to choose all 10. And then you're going to decide how many augmentation slots go into each power, which one is being increased the most. So your powers are going to be selected for you, and your augmentations are going to be selected by you. You're going to do everything. You're going to customize your character. If, MJ, you and I make 2 identically selected fire blasters, they could be completely different, or fire devastators in our game. They could actually play completely differently, because I might have selected 3 powers you haven't, and I might have augmented 2 of them to play, very rapid strike, high burst damage, and you might have decided you want to do mostly damage over time as a means to maximize DPS. Okay. They'd be completely different, although they would have started out with the same power sets.
I will mention that you'll have a lot of costume customization options, and I'm not saying that we're going to do this or not, but we have played around with the idea of, as you play the game, you might find a specific outfit or something, or outfit piece, and then that piece becomes available to you in the character creator, which you can go back and adjust your character later.
All right, that was my exact question I was about to follow up with, because, I mean, I don't care how cool your character looks. At some point, you want to have something different.
That's true. You could change costume. So I took your question to mean, hey, do I need to get the armor of Zeus in order to really get my resistance to its maximum? And the answer is no.
No. The question was to change the appearance, only your wardrobe, how you are looking.
Yeah, wardrobes, absolutely. We'd like to have something, the equivalent of perhaps a tailor shop or an armorer shop, where you could get more than one look.
All right. Zooks, actually, the question about power colors was something that we answered near the early part of the stream. So it's being looked at, but yeah, if you want the full description, you're going to have to go back and watch the beginning. See what I did there? Going to make you go. Make you going to go watch what you missed. But currently, different powers have different colors, and they're looking into it. So, all right, that's the answer you get for that. Power is still recharging. Oh, I don't know what you were trying to do there, but you can't do it. All right, let's see if I've missed any questions here. Oh, we're still talking about Catwoman quite a bit. Oh, no, I think we've gotten through most of our questions. Ooh, nice.
Okay.
So, of course, people are looking at this, and now here's a question that has... it comes to mind because actually other game has done it. So you've had games that have allowed people to mess with the character creator early, before beta, mess with it, check it out, get their look what they like, maybe even save it to be ready for the game, as well as ones that'll allow you to, do this. Jump in a room, do a little, not have access to the full game, the story or something. Would you consider having something early, so it's not the beta game, it's just a little room to jump in, to get that feel, to be inside? Is that something you'd consider?
Absolutely. I'm almost certain we're going to allow certainly our donors to get in, make their characters early, fool around with it. We've actually had some supporters who have come in and said, I might need a couple of days. I do want to fiddle with the nose, and I
need more than days to make a character.
People are telling me about cheekbones. When you said earlier we need, red hair, it suddenly struck me that the thing I hear the most when people communicate with me one-on-one is, will there be bright pink hair? Must say I was completely flummoxed by that, but apparently it is a really popular idea to have either bright pink hair or purple hair. And I can only assume this is, sort of leakage from the anime world. But people want to sort of whisper to me, bright pink, purple, I need hair.
Oh, no, bright colors, actually. If any color besides going for red, the fluorescent green is, because it's very comic booky. I wouldn't necessarily even say anime, but it is very comic booky to have bright colors, so I can see that.
Right. So I would say, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
So the community's not for the Ship of Bald Heroes. I mean, I was thinking.
Yeah, only you like the Ship of Bald Heroes.
Welsh Troll has got it here. Okay. Please make character creator not time out for at least 2 hours. Because people like me, well, okay, I've done more than 12-hour stints making a character, guys. In all honesty, I really have. But yeah, when you get booted because you're in a thing and it's saying you're AFK too long because you've been doing sliders, all that. No, don't do that because that is so frustrating.
That doesn't happen, period, at all, even now. Okay. There is no timer on the character creator. You can be in there for 24 hours. It's up to you.
All right. Yay!
Now, with the proviso, though, your computer could decide you're AFK and decide to save power, right? But our game isn't going to kick you out.
Good. All right, couple more. Zora. Oh, this was one from earlier. Zora, sorry, I remember it scrolling by. Do you plan to allow for full keybind customize a bit? Wow. I can't read and look at the screen at the same time. Custom keybinds, or are you going to limit the ability to controls for the controls?
Oh yeah, we're going to have them.
Yeah, we're gonna have custom keybinds. Actually, that was something that Casey brought up to me recently. I think it came up on the forums, and he said, "Hey, you know, we need to plan ahead for that." So,
correct.
Mind Settings is asking, what would be the selling point of the game for the most important thing? And he's got customization, community, or missions. Now, from what I have learned, discussing everything and such, yeah, I get the feeling actually that community is like the top tier. Everything's leading into the community, or would you say community is the base?
Well, I think community is the essential element. If we don't succeed on that, I'm not sure we'll have fulfilled our mission, but I think we will succeed at it. So positive community is a given. We're going to do that. We're going to have chat moderation. We're building a lot of design elements into the game, as you can see. We talked about a few of them here. Now, saying that, I think customization is another one of the pillars on which the game stands. People are hungry to be able to make a character that's their character, that fulfills their dream, that carries the story they're going to write with it. And you can put your story in on your character. You want to write about, radioactive tomato girl, you can make her. And you can write that story and put it in, and it will be visible, if you want it to be, to other players who can read that her little backstory, right? That's important. Once we get positive community and we get the customization, then we're looking for a game that can grow, a game that can stay, that'll be here for 10 years, 15 years. That's an aspirational goal for us that we think about every day. We want the game to last. And part of the game lasting is obviously controlling cost structure and all that, but part of it is constantly delivering new places, new missions, new environments, new enemies, new upgrades. So expansion potential is a big part of the game. I don't actually talk about that all that often, but it is actually a pillar for long-term success.
So basically all the stuffs.
Yep.
Now, I still admit, now, okay, here's an interesting question. So you guys, community is a big thing. Have you noticed having to pull out any kind of big guns on the community that you have yet, or having to go in and moderate a bit of, hey folks, it's, this is getting too negative or going a direction we don't want to go? Have you seen much of that with the group that's following now?
No, I have not, actually. And I think our forum moderators would say the same thing. We have a very positive group formed now. And I think once the culture gets established and people understand that, a core principle of the game is treating other people with respect, and just maybe that's it, treating other people with respect, but a certain amount of politeness and deference, I think that that's self-fulfilling. I certainly have seen games where they suddenly spiral down for various reasons and the devs did nothing to stop it. It's very difficult to recover a game like that back to a positive status. So we want to make sure it doesn't happen here. But if you're asking, have we had to ban a whole bunch of people on the forums? No.
Oh, I'm not thinking banning, just redirecting yet. Just reminding that the atmosphere that you're going for is X instead of...
Actually, no. We do draw more people either trying to pitch their products or an occasional ad for porn on the forums, but those get shut down almost immediately.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that I remove those about every other day, but that happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Quiffby would like you to make the number lock button not lock the keypad during the gameplay, because slow typers like me often bind movement and powers to the keypad for ease of use. Having the number lock function disabled is a big help.
Yeah,
I just checked. It doesn't do anything.
There you go. And I don't think we want it to do anything. Locking the power tray is something that you should move your mouse over or something like that and click a button for, so that you don't, accidentally do it. It should not be trivially easy. Hitting a key on your keyboard and unlocking your power tray would be, that'd be disastrous for me. Mine would be unlocked and empty in 10 minutes.
I've done that many a time. Like, where did my skill go? Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, let's see. A couple other things. We've got, now Zora, from the last time I talked to him, yes, there was, from my understanding, at least back at PAX, so September-ish, that there will be support for RP communities.
Yep.
And Zooks wants an in-game voting system to help support players who want to take part in things like costume contests and stuff.
Yeah, we definitely would like to have costume contests and all this kind of stuff where people are getting together, chatting. I don't think we have an in-game voting system right now in the specs, but it's worth making a note of, and that's a good idea.
Yeah, I actually like that one. I was going to mention that. That's one we ought to write down right there, definitely.
Correct. If only we had our lead dev on this call, we could just tell him, hey, Matt, make that happen.
Wait, Matt's not here, man.
Yeah, I can just see having little polling booths, where somebody could go in and so not necessarily, when you guys send out polls to gather information from players, but like a little polling booth, and you can have choice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, and people go enter them. And
how about, based on that idea, how about an item that whoever's running the contest could drop an item somewhere, and then people that are participating can vote using that player's item, so that player has control over the item and can tally up the results. It's just a thought.
There you go. Well, I'd rather that, the
visible
system add the system add it, depending on how many were there. 1 check, 2 check, 3 check, 50 check, 51 check, 50. Yeah, that I would hope the system would add it and tally it for me, but
yeah, it would definitely. I'm just thinking, just out loud here, like an item, you drop it on the ground, there's like a hologram above it that has like the results or something, and then people can walk up and vote, and it would just automatically add it, of course.
No,
nobody likes to do math during a game.
Some people do. There are those people. I am just not one of those people.
Hardcore raiders, definitely.
Unless the Prometheans hack the votes. No, so stuff like that. That's like role play kind of tools. That would be a really neat tool that people could use to facilitate community play in the game. I think stuff like that is awesome. Uh-oh. Did I lose sound? Did you guys lose sound?
No, I was thinking on the in-game voting idea. I actually really like that idea.
Woohoo! There you go, guys. Zooks, you have now been a part of development.
This is actually how we do it. We say, oh, we like that idea. Let's add that.
Very nice. All right, so have we seen all the places that there's... I would actually like to... Can we go back out to the city? We've done a lot of interior shots and everything. Can we go out and run around and just look at the arch and stuff? There are people that have joined us that I don't think have seen all the videos and such. So
I think Matt needs a couple minutes to reload the city map.
Yep, I've pulled the splash screen up. I'm hoping it'll actually show up. There it is. So yep. I think that'd be a nice end, because in here it's very contained. It would be nice to end with the big openness.
It is. And in fact, Matt can go out there and he can jump from building to building, which is fun. I will say Matt said he flew around jumping from building to building. I did that too. And I think every one of our devs has done that just because it's fun to do.
It's like one of the first things you do when you get in a game.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, can you actually travel up to one of the windows and look out?
You mean from the inside?
Mm-hmm.
There are spots, and there are going to be more, where you can look out from behind the glass. We also have some transparent, I don't necessarily want to say glass, because I guess what they said in Star Trek was it was transparent aluminum or something, but it's a super alloy that looks like glass, right? And we've used that in a couple of spots, which will give you a tactical advantage if you're on the ground and fighting foes that are flying. Because if they try to shoot you down, that glass, which you can see through, does stop the shot.
Oh.
So, and then there's a spot in the game where at the top of one of the buildings, we have the aspiration to make a really nice restaurant spot, possibly two of those, in fact, where you could go inside and look out. Not made yet. So as I think you saw at the start of this, if you were with us at the start of this live stream, we were showing off the upgrades to the warehouse district, because we are always improving the city level, improving Apotheosis City. We're actually gonna start making some additional changes, and we're deciding how many more, really significant changes we're going to make immediately, and then we have to start sort of finalizing the map in order to be ready in just 11 months for a beta. I know that seems like a long time. You guys are thinking, what? You don't need, 11 months is forever. But no, actually, it's a big city map, and we need some time.
Yeah. Now, there actually was one discussion that was going on forums that for me, I don't know, it doesn't.
I think Matt's back, too, in the city.
Yes, I've got it up. So Danger, watch your fingers and hands. Somebody was asking, well, if you've got this big ship, why would you put a warehouse district out in the open when you could stick it in a different level? Or is it just to have variety in the livable spaces? Because when you think most people, warehouse stuff, they try to stick it as far away out. I mean, you even have it away from the town. It was just an interesting conversation that was started.
We have it away from the town. And also, remember, this is if you could say it that way, it's the bottom of the ship. The level below this, there's a sub-level that connects different parts of Apotheosis City, and below that is the engines. So if you were bringing some stuff in from this city and trying to get it to the engine room, you would have a warehouse section nearby where you could store stuff, right?
Okay.
And so I just think it's a natural layout. We actually do a lot of urban design thinking in the layout of the city. So yeah, there normally is at least some sort of warehouse or industrial sector. In my real life, I've worked in a lot of those. And so I can tell you, this is pretty realistic, actually. Small, but pretty realistic.
Yeah, so but at one point you think of you're building an idyllic place to live. Would you want the realism of the noisy warehouse district? But it was just an interesting observation. So here we are. I noticed there was like kind of a little baby Golden Gate Bridge off to the left, and
yes, there is. That goes across to the hazard zone. Not built yet. It's just gray sand over there, but that is going to be sort of a very dangerous place where you could do harvesting, fight monsters and all. We've left that for last deliberately. This is the arch. I guess we can all tell which building is the arch. Just for people understanding scale, the arch is in the exact center of the level of Apotheosis City. This is the geographical center. So you can look downtown, you can look to Science Park. So Matt is headed toward the Science Park right now.
I'm going to my new favorite spot that I found out about recently and never knew about.
Yes.
Well, the Space Needle?
So up at the top of the Space Needle, you can fly in and look out from behind the glass.
See, these are one of the things I would do. Just start going, finding every little nook and cranny you can get to.
I've been working in this game and in this map for 2 years, and I never knew about this until like a week ago.
That makes Eric very happy.
I love stuff like that. Let's see. Mind settings, I wonder if everyone is a superhero on the ship. Player characters, yes.
Yeah, player characters, yes. But our premise for the ship is there are millions aboard the ship. And there are, probably hundreds or thousands of heroes, superheroes. So it is a 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000 kind of scenario to have superpowers. And again, our story continues. This is the 25th century. It's 500 years in the future. So if there are superheroes today, wouldn't there be superheroes 500 years from now? And the answer to us, of course, is yes. Yes, well, there would be.
That depends on if, Magneto that depends on who wins the war, right? No.
If Magneto is correct, then they'll all have superpowers.
They'll all have superpowers, but yeah.
I guess we're going a little bit more with the Xavier outlook. And in fact, we're saying that aboard the ship, being a superhero is more common because of the effect of the unobtainium engines and their associated radiation. We've set that up in the storyline so that the particular isotopic mix of unobtainium that we use in our engines aboard the ship is generally good for all human beings. It helps make you as good as you can be, right? But it is not necessarily good for other life forms. Different mixes would be good for Nigdalians or for aliens or whatever, which is why some alien life forms like plants or animals that sort of creep aboard the ship somehow, they can become dangerously mutated aboard the ship and become dangerous opponents. Now, Matt, you missed that one. Even though you are the king of platforming, you missed that one, my friend.
Now, here is a question.
Nothing happened. Nothing
happened. It never happened? Okay.
Never happened.
This is actually a valid point. So Zooks brings up, it will be nice to see if and when you add a bit of dirt, wear, or tear to any of the building or ground textures so that everything doesn't look so unrealistically spotless. Remember what the Matrix said, when things are too perfect, people reject that reality. So you've got this really cool setup in here, but it does look like it's untouched, uninhabited. Is that going to change any?
A little bit, but not a lot. And I would give you this thought. If we could go back 500 years to London, I presume we're all English speakers on this podcast, this live stream. Think about that. We go back to London in the year 1518, and we walk through the capital of one of the great countries of Europe. What would we see walking through a city there? And the answer is we'd be appalled, because most streets are not paved, there are no sidewalks, there are no sewers. People are emptying their privy straight into the streets where their animals are rooting around. Houses would look terribly, terribly ramshackle and poorly maintained. And people who, at the time, often believed that a bath when you were born and a bath when you were dead was sufficient for a lifetime, would be dirty, grungy, and to our modern eyes, dressed in rags. We'd be shocked if we went back 500 years. What's happened since then? Things have gotten a lot cleaner, a lot neater. We're seeking after perfection. I understand the Matrix quote, but the Matrix quote also refers to 20th century America. If you see 20th century America and it's too perfect, then something's wrong. I agree with that. If you see 25th century faster than light travel super ship, maybe that is more perfect. Certainly if I were to counter by saying, well, look at the worlds that the Federation owns. Look at Earth in Star Trek. It's perfect.
But there are still your little seedy red light districts, your little ghettos. So something that, not everybody is going to be. For instance, you were talking about the people that might need to be kicked off the ship at the next port because of being a problem or something. So they're not going to congregate in the spiffy, shiny, happy, whatever. Are you going to have some kind of less desirable district for those who want to be not clean cut and less desirable?
Yes, there'll be differences between the levels. So for example, this level, as I mentioned a couple of times, is the level next to the engineering deck. Guess who lives here? Engineers, perfectionist engineers who like things neat and orderly. Some other levels will reflect different culture, different ideas. So yeah, there could be, and there will be some areas that are not perfect. But again, it's not a medieval game, and it's also not a dystopian, ruined game either. And I know some people would like to have some levels that are ruined. That's not really our plan. We don't think that fits into the storyline very well. Now, where we could get much more of this is, what about when we're visiting other worlds? Some worlds are colonies. Colonies generally not that clean or laid out well. So different maps, different environments for different situations. If we're looking, I could argue it's not a perfect analogy, but when the USS Enterprise makes port in a third world port that's a U.S. ally, the Enterprise is still neatly maintained on all decks inside, but the port, not so much. Does that make sense, MJ?
I'm just still thinking. So, are there going to be other cities in other levels?
Yes. Every level will, well, not every level, but most levels will have a major city with a culture and environment, and they can be different. By the way, one of the things we get out of building everything ourselves is that we are accumulating art assets. Buildings, walls, street signs, all stuff that we've either bought or we've made ourselves, textures, patterns of behavior in terms of building the level and laying it out. So once we get the first one the way we want it to be, the next ones become a little easier each time.
Okay. Because now I know you don't want dystopian. I'm just thinking varied, like I said, I want to come outside. Varied color schemes. This is very metallic, very sanitary, very sterile.
Yeah.
But a city that's doesn't have to be broken down, just not so sterile.
Yep.
Not so shiny. Maybe, more natural looking things, or, that's just, I'm very visual. I'm extremely visual. So that difference in
nice
environments. Like, I'm really looking forward to seeing the harvesting deck, because that's something I can envision being very, not so much grubby, but very natural, very more natural colors, more earthy, or even get some luminescent crazy stuff in there. You can really get some crazy looking critters or something in there too, but
right.
Just the
Jurassic Central Park, yes.
Yeah, just the idea that even the city, very sterile. No matter where you are, an entire population is not going to conform to this.
By which I know you have not visited Singapore.
I have not. I have been to St. Petersburg, though, a couple of times, and Moscow.
Not the same thing.
Not the same thing. No, but that and Scotland and Ireland and London.
Yes.
Those are the only places I've traveled besides all across the U.S. So.
Yes. Well, I will say too that one of the things about the city now is it's empty. So we need to place the NPCs moving around, enemies moving around, cars, other things moving. It will be more lively at that point. So I'd ask you to withhold judgment till then. Well, Matt's found the door where we did one of our missions. Yeah.
Ah. Yeah, now I can see the ship needing to stay clean in some way, but there's always not so much the bad element, but yeah, just the slightly rebellious element. It's just that makes things seem more real to have that variety. There you go. It's a bit about variety. To me. Visual variety. Like, I love how the buildings here, yes, they're all very sterile looking, but there is a lot of variety in their style.
Correct.
That looks very nice. It's not just all the same skyscraper. slapped down. You've got different shapes, different colors, different textures. So I really appreciate that part of it. But yeah, there's a part of me that wants to see something less sterile, more lived in, more comfy. And as somebody was mentioning, Picard had his vineyard. Kirk was on a horse farm or something,
Exactly. In other words, when they left the ship and they visited worlds, you got to see mess and dirt. Yep.
Well, that was just playing on Earth. And yeah, even the holodeck. How many times did people go in and pick something that wasn't so...
Lots
sterile.
Of time.
So yeah, just ways to go and do that. I think visually that helps people feel. I don't know. I would be uncomfortable constantly being in a sterile environment. I would start to get uncomfortable and be like, man, I don't want to touch anything. Can't sit here. It's the white couch in the white carpeted room with everything covered, kind of thing. So anyway, just thought. So everybody, hey. What do you think? Do you have some extra questions for these guys before we allow them to get back to work and make this game? Or let's see, Zooks, I'm pretty sure dust still exists in the 25th century. If not, Roomba must rule the galaxy. We'll see them all on the street, little Roombas going around.
Yes.
That's extra funny because I just bought my mom a Roomba for Christmas, so...
I got a vacuum for last October as a gift. I'd bought one for the family, and we love it. We named him. His name is Lurch, and he runs around and he chases you sometimes, actually. But there you go. We can see little bots going and scrubbing all the stuff around the city.
Yeah, that was actually part of the original thinking, was that there would be little robots going around the city. Oh, Matt, jump down there.
What is that?
Every time I delete these, every time.
Our FX guy was experimenting with FX here and set them up as trial balloons so we could see how they'd look, and now we can't get rid of them. What?
I like the funnel of flame.
If this is still in the launch game, we're gonna have to call this, the Magic Apparition Road or something. I don't know. Build it into the lore, but
I really like this particle effects. That's neat.
Sonic shower, yeah.
There you go. We can throw that inside their bases. That's their sonic shower. Click a button and yeah, I like that funnel of flame. Of course, I like fire, and I like fire.
I had a fire blaster in COH.
Yeah, they're planning on a beta the end of the year. So
correct.
As far as being playable game-wise, but they might be able to put out the character creator for those of us who need 2 or 3 weeks to actually make a character early, something like that, or maybe a place to jump in and run around a room or something of that nature. Because I know there are plenty of people that would enjoy getting in just doing this.
Correct.
And they're eager to, and they're anticipating it, and you've got to just tell them no. So, is that one of the windows outside?
It is.
Ooh. Yeah, I would sit at one of these windows for hours. And, he couldn't sit.
They used to have collision. They must not. We got to get collision back on that. They had collision before, I know, because I've jumped on those. So now we got to fix that.
I'd sit there and be watching, waiting to see if some little thing flies by.
Also, you should be able to run across the top of the wall here. But I'm not sure if we have collision restored or not, but kind of a beautiful look to the outside.
Now, as it's moving along, are you going to be able to see the outside moving, or is it moved too slowly for that, per se?
Usually you won't be able to see the outside moving, but we have some ideas for occasionally you might see something outside that is unhappily quite close.
Now, get the little guy on the wing in Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, there's something on the wing.
You got some Langoliers going or something? Okay.
Yeah.
I can see what happened if you look at the outer rim of the window. You see it? how it's a different material than this now. This was adjusted, and when they adjusted it, they didn't put the collision in, so we'll have to get that.
So go up to the very top. So you see the sky looks like it continues.
Correct.
But that's just...
That's an illusion.
It's just an illusion.
It's a hologram. We've had different ideas, too, for the walls surrounding. So this is like a projected sky, and we've had different ideas of maybe as you get close to it, you can kind of see like a octagonal pattern as you get close. We're still exploring ideas for that to help build on the immersion as you get closer to the walls.
Correct.
Everybody, Truman Show, Twilight Zone with Shatner. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, did you guys have any other points of note that you wanted to share with folks, or?
I think we're good, but I want to say thank you to you, MJ, and to your audience. It's always great to talk about this game. We actually spend every day on it. You know, we're fascinated with it. We want to build it. We are building it, and we think it's going to be successful. We understand it's a little different, but we think there's a hankering for a positive community. We think there's a hankering for a new superhero game. We think the fusion with sci-fi is the way, really the way the country and the world absorb superheroes now.
Oh, a final question from G-Town Send. Was the choice of a ship influenced by the walled city of City of Heroes?
No. No, we knew we needed a completely different setting, a new setting, a break from the story for intellectual property reasons, and also because there was a hankering for something new. I know that when City of Heroes closed, I was one of those who used to say, just bring the game back. Bring the game back. I just want the old game back. And I was surprised how many of my friends in the game said, you know, I'm ready for City of Heroes 2. I'm ready for a different game that, you know, has similar mechanics and retains the positive community, retains other features. Before the game closed, I actually did interviews and recorded them with, 15 or 20 of my friends saying, tell me what you like about this game while we were playing.
Go ahead.
I thought about that for years before I decided, hey, you know, we should go ahead and try to make one. But it has to be a new story. It has to be completely new.
Will you be able to go in these buildings? That was the, like, primo best thing about the Matrix. You could actually go in all the buildings. Or are these going to all be just props with a few instant zones going in?
I'm not going to promise that you can go inside all the buildings. That actually has implications for how many players can play and, you know, whether the buildings are heavy or light in terms of performance, how much they're eating up of your performance to have them in there. But we'll be able to go in lots of the buildings. Whenever we go in a building, we either have to have a specific interior mission map built for it, or we have to have a generic one, right? So we're not going to stop and try to make 150 highly specific, multi-level building interiors. The game wouldn't be done for 10 years if we did that. So we'll be going in some, but not in all.
Oh my gosh, Zooks, I was going to ask if anybody else was thinking that. A hanker for a hunk of cheese. Seriously, that song is going through my head now. It won't stop. I am so glad somebody else has that going in their minds now. Was that an old cartoon, old commercial? Oh, I don't even remember. Just a hanker for a hunk of cheese. You guys have ruined me for the whole night. And I can't even eat cheese anymore. You're all so evil. All right, well, we're going to call it, guys. We've had a long stream today. Lots of information. Lots of cool things to check out. The new mission maps. We've been flying around the city. You've gotten a really good look at the buildings. You've got some nice, see, green grass. That just like lowers my stress level, just seeing the green like that. And then you've got the new warehouse district, which is one of the things they've just recently put in. And of course, now everybody's hankering for a hunk of cheese. Oh my gosh, Matt.
You're
Casey,
a cruel one, MJ, just before dinner, too.
I know. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on the OPTV and showing the stuff off, talking about your game. I know a lot of people have been expressing interest in it. Bill says, looks like it will be a fun game and can't wait to try it. So
Great. Thank you all very much. We appreciate your time today.
all right, with that, folks, we are going to be closing it out. Remember, if you want to learn more about this particular game and even the game that it was based on, I'm sure we've got a few words about that, go to massivelyop.com. And of course, if you're following there on Twitter or anything, you're going to get notifications, all the news that comes out. And our stream schedule is there. That's how you know what's coming up on OPTV. So be sure to check it all out. Of course, you will also have links that will go to the official site, so you'll be able to learn more about Ship of Heroes. We have lots of videos, though. We have some exclusive things that have been put up on the site, so you guys can read up on it. And of course, if you go to their forums, you can meet the community, ask questions, make more suggestions, and all that good stuff. So thanks for joining, everybody. Thank you guys for coming and sharing your game with us. And we hope to see you all at another time, and always on site because it's open 24 hours. Night, everyone.
Thank you, MJ.